have a nice, smooth interface with the aircraft, then everything will go pretty easily. If your body is tense, your hand is tense, your legs are tense, your feet are tense, then you're going to very easily be applying control pressures without knowing it, and it's going to move the plane around. We don't want that.
So you got to chill.
Right. Yep. If we are going to use some sort of, tensing up for G tolerance, which most people don't need if we're around the 4G range, but sometimes we do. Everybody's different. It's important to limit that tensing of the muscles just to your abdomen and not letting your limbs tense up.
Okay.
Which takes a little practice to isolate that. But anyway. Now the cloverleaf. So what we'll do is, it's very similar to the loop.
Okay.
What we'll do first is line up the aircraft with some sort of geographical reference point, like your water bottle might be a mountain or a road or something, right off of a wingtip, so 90 degrees off our heading. The entry is the same as the loop, 45, 100 knots, 4 Gs, and then as we're pulling up through here, we'll turn our eyes off of the G meter and look at our target, the mountain or road or whatever it might be, lock our eyes onto that target.
Okay.
We'll be maintaining the back pressure to hold the 4 Gs or something close to it. And then after we fix our eyes on the target, we'll start adding to that back pressure a slight aileron pressure and a slight rudder pressure to the same side. So we impart a twisting motion to the aircraft as the nose comes up, which will make the nose travel up nice and high in an arc, like so. At about this point, we'll start relaxing the back pressure to coast over the top as we complete the roll. We should reach our target wings level at the top of the maneuver, the nose still above the horizon. Coast over, back to the G meter, 4 Gs through the bottom, and finished.
What's the max speed right here over the top where you would abort?
Well, that's rarely an issue.
Okay.
I would say most of the time the issue is with people not pulling enough.
Okay.
And but even then, as long as they're somewhere close to 4 Gs, they'll get past vertical, which is the important part.
Okay.
The real danger is pulling too little Gs and ending up with a tail slide, since most of the aircraft are not approved for tail slides.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if you don't pull enough, you get right here.
You're out of energy.
Out of energy.
Yep.
So use all that energy to get here.
Yep. But it is possible to come across faster than optimal by maintaining the back pressure and not relaxing the back pressure and reducing the G loading and decelerating some. But it's rare to be so fast across the top that you shouldn't pull through.
Okay.
But that could be a problem if, let's say, we also brought it around too fast, we're a little quick here, and then we decided to not use 4 Gs through the bottom, let's say just 2 Gs, let's say, then we're going to overspeed by about this point here. So it's one of those things where everything needs to be done properly every single time.
Right.
Simple.
You got to get right to 4 Gs, otherwise.
Yeah, or that should be the goal, and the goal should be perfection every time, not just, just fling it around and no big deal. We need to have high standards for how we conduct each individual maneuver. And sure, there's actually a pretty wide margin of safety. We can have some deviations in speed and G loadings and it still works fine and safely.
Okay.
But the more deviation we have from the proper technique, the smaller our safety margin is.
Okay.
So my philosophy is to work with people until the proficiency is at a point where they just don't make mistakes anymore. Simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
So with the cloverleaf, the most important thing with the cloverleaf is the path that the nose takes from here up into our target. Should be a nice high arc coming way high in the sky like so, which allows the aircraft to decelerate so that we're nice and slow here at the top of the maneuver, so then it's safe to come through. What happens sometimes though is that people get so focused on the rolling motion that they come down and they're pulling up nicely, and they look and they start the roll, and they exchange the back pressure for the aileron pressure, as opposed to maintaining the back pressure and adding the aileron pressure to it. And that reduction in back pressure causes the nose to come across very flat, which means the aircraft is not decelerating. So then they're here fast, and then it's with the Cloverleaf, it is easy to be here too fast to safely pull through, and you need to abort and just transition to inverted flight. So that's the most critical thing with the Cloverleaf, is really having a clear visualization of where the nose needs to travel and how high the nose needs to travel through the top portion of the maneuver to ensure that we get here to the halfway point at the energy level that we want.
Okay.
Yep. It's not hard. It's just part of the learning process is, early on it's fairly mechanical, and people sometimes screw up the mechanics.
Right.
Yep.
It's just a matter of when you blend that in. Maybe like 45 degrees nose up?
Well, from a competitive standpoint, the rolling motion should be blended evenly from this attitude all the way up to this attitude here.
So the whole time you've blended in aileron rudder.
Yep. So it's important that we roll slowly, because if we roll too fast, we can have a similar problem, where if we roll too quickly, it comes across flat, and we won't get the heading that we want, but more importantly, the nose comes across flat and it retains too much speed. So it's actually a very, very slow rate of roll that we're doing. So it's just slowly creeping through the roll as we pull the nose up really high, like so. Now, it's okay early on if somebody is, well, one, if it's not competitive aerobatics, then we don't have to have the aesthetically perfect Cloverleaf, I guess. What we can do is, if there's a delay before we start rolling, like 30 degrees up or 20 degrees up, whatever, then there's a higher likelihood that the nose will continue high enough that we'll be safe here. Some people even teach early on to bring the nose up really high, then roll here and pull it across. But that's not the traditional perfect way to do the Cloverleaf. I'd rather have you try and do it perfectly first, and then work towards doing it really spot on every time. But if there is a delay, during the time that you look and then start rolling, and the nose is higher, that's only going to increase the safety.
Okay.
Basically, the higher the nose gets first, the greater the you can't really have greater the guarantee that you'll be slower, but basically it'll help ensure that you're at a nice slow speed here before you pull through.
Right.
Yep. So that's Cloverleaf. Again, I'll demonstrate first, and then you'll get to practice.
Okay.
Okay.